Should Germany ban fireworks? This question crops up towards the end of every year as Germans let off fireworks at midnight on New Year's Eve. For some people, it's a harmless bit of fun, but for some others, it's not harmless at all. So let's talk about this tradition and some of the arguments for and against a ban. But I'll begin by contrasting my personal experiences growing up in the UK with my personal experiences living in Germany. Now, I left Britain in 1993, so my experiences are going to be a couple of decades out of date. I realize that things have changed a lot since then, but certainly back in the 1980s, we had it constantly drummed into us just how dangerous fireworks can be. Fireworks were not common on New Year's Eve. Rather, the main event was November the 5th, Guy Fawkes Night, commemorating the time a 17th century plot to assassinate the king was foiled. Traditionally, there are bonfires, usually featuring an effigy of Guy Fawkes himself, and fireworks. It was common for people to buy their own fireworks, but this was always, from what I can remember, accompanied by public service announcements in all of the media about how to safely handle fireworks. Always keep them in a closed tin, take them out one by one, use a flashlight and not a naked flame to read the instructions and follow them very closely. But in many places, public firework displays were organized and people were encouraged to attend them instead of buying their own fireworks. You could all come together as one community. The fireworks were bigger and better than anything you were allowed to buy in the shops. Everything was so much safer and entry was completely free. So imagine my shock when I experienced my first ever New Year's Eve in Germany and saw people standing about on the streets letting off quite powerful fireworks seemingly at random and without any regard to anyone's safety at all. So why is it traditional in Germany and many other countries as well to have fireworks on New Year's Eve? Well, like so many traditions, it actually goes back a very long way. The idea is to make a huge noise at the beginning of the new year in order to scare away the evil spirits. Of course, that's not what most of us believe today, but fireworks are fun, and we like to mark significant events, like the start of a new year. So, why not? Well, first of all, it is inherently dangerous, and absurdly so. Every year, fire brigades spend the entire night putting out fires, and every year, hospitals fill up with patients suffering injuries ranging from burns to the loss of entire limbs. For the emergency services, New Year's Eve is the worst time of the year. Secondly, for some people, it's a nightmare. There are people who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, and by that I mean the real thing, not the mild discomfort that some people these days are calling PTSD. I'm talking about people who have directly experienced war or other very traumatic events, and for whom fireworks trigger intense panic attacks and hallucinations. Of course, the number of people who are old enough to remember the air raids of the Second World War is now vanishingly small, but we have recently accepted into our country hundreds of thousands of people from war zones, and we still send our soldiers out into war zones. Third, we are almost literally just burning money. Last year, Germans spent an estimated 180 million euros on fireworks. Every year, one charity organisation runs a campaign suggesting that there are far better things for us to be spending that money on. Given all of that, why would you not want to ban such a thing? Well, there are counter-arguments to all of these points. While it is true that the emergency services are stretched to the limit, there are surprisingly few life-changing injuries. We do hear every year of people losing eyes, fingers, hands, arms, even their lives, but there are really only a handful of such cases. Regarding people with anxiety disorders, We can't run an entire society based on not upsetting a relatively small number of people. Otherwise, we would never be able to do anything fun or exciting ever again. I mean, surely this is a problem that we should be managing in some other, more effective way. And 180 million euros isn't enough to make even a dent on the problem of world hunger. It really is a drop in the ocean. The German Association of Towns and Municipalities has spoken out against a general ban. There are serious problems in some of the biggest cities, which recently have included people taking the opportunity to start actual riots, but everywhere else, things generally pass off very smoothly. It suggests that while selective bans can work in specific places, the best approach is probably to encourage people to use fireworks responsibly. Perhaps something similar to the way that I described my experiences in Britain in the 1980s. Besides, a general ban could never be enforced. We already have problems with people importing very powerful fireworks illegally from other countries. We don't want to encourage that behavior, and we all deserve a bit of fun now and then. Nobody wants to be a killjoy. Now, I haven't obviously listed all of the arguments. That would take far too long. But what do you think? Leave things as they are? Regulate and educate? Or impose an absolute ban? Let me know in the comments. How to safely handle fireworks. That's an interesting word. I'm glad I invented it. With patients suffering injuries from... talking about my personal...